Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tesla Life number 186 or 7. It's 87. Yeah, 187.
Almost 200.
It is a new month here. It is February the 3rd, 2021, and we have got so much news. We can't even fit it in one show. There's that much news. But we'll get as much as we can get in. And with us, as always, we have Mr. Patrick Connor from the West Coast. How are you today, sir?
Good, that's me. Hey, everybody out there in the Tesla Life, all my friends fighting for a future free from fossil fuels.
So is your shirt a commentary on the recent Shell purchase, or is it a coincidence? Oh,
the Shell of
future
death.
free from fossil fuels.
Yes. If we continue down our fossil-y ways, we're doomed.
Yep, and Patrick just keeps adding F words through the week, and next week it'll be nothing but F words for the entire show.
Yeah, the fossil fuel guys deserve a few of those. So
there you go. Also joining us, as per usual, Mr. Casey Green from the DC area. How are you today, sir?
Doing pretty well. I just finished my deep dive on 2020.48.35.5, just in time for .8 to start hitting the market.
You know, I think it would be much simpler if they said this is version 4.
Well, they're trying that. They're trying that with the FSD betas.
It gets complex with the point. But
absolutely.
I'm glad you're on top of it, sir.
Yeah, it's not as crazy as it seems initially. So you've got a year, and then you've got a week, and then you've got a build number and some bug fixes. So it's not so bad.
Yeah, my favorite part that it stands out as soon as you put the car into drive is the screen elements have returned to normal size.
That is good.
Okay.
Yeah, there's more, but you'll have to wait for me to finish the video and put it up.
Very good. A teaser. That's what we call it. Exactly. Well, this week, let's get started. Of course, last week was the earnings call, the introduction of the refreshed Model S and X. Some additional information on that S, of course. We found out this week that there is somewhat of a design ready for a tow hitch for the Model S. So this was revealed through an article from Drive Tesla Canada, and they talk about how that information is in the studio source code, that you've got a photograph showing that it can accept a hitch. So this is not official from Tesla, but it has been taken from some source code. And as we've learned in the past, they tend to put this kind of stuff into the website, hide it from the public until they're ready to reveal it. So it does look like it's a good indicator that a tow hitch will be available for the S if you're looking to order that car. So that's a plus at any time to have the ability to have a tow hook. That's just added functionality.
I want to throw out there that technically the Model 3 also has a trailer hitch. It's only available in Europe. So as we always say, if the car matches what you want today, get it. If it doesn't, it might change in a week.
Or tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. And according to this source code, it has a capacity of up to 3,500 pounds. You'll have to translate that into kilograms for the rest of the world. But
that's the same as a Model Y.
Right. Exactly.
Or a Model X with 22s.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For the X, I only know 5,000 pounds. I didn't realize with the larger wheels it was lower.
Oh yeah. So you and I both are running 20s then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which this makes sense. You're not going to pull a massive camper, but if you want to, throw something on there to get a yard of dirt, or if you want to have a bike rack or a ski rack, that's plenty, and that's just some really nice functionality. And so yeah, I would like all of their vehicles to have this capability in all the countries, not just. Why is the Model 3 tow hitch only available in the UK? Come on.
Exactly. I mean, look at how it used to be. And we had jump seats, we had tow hitches on every car, including the VW Bug. I mean, come on. Just put a reasonable rating on it. If it can only handle a yard trailer, say, hey, 250, 500 pounds, whatever. and then to do it worldwide with the correct ratings for that country's systems.
Yeah, and if you want to have it as an option that people have to pay for, great. You get more revenue on that vehicle.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just an add-on, so that works great for everybody. Like you said, it just has to be reasonable. This thing is not going to be pulling, a tri-wheel trailer with a boat on it. So it's got to be reasonable.
And then there's the other bonus that they.
Oh,
what's that?
I said it has to be able to tow a cyber quad. That's essential.
Yeah, that's no problem.
The other thing to look at here is they can do it at the service center the same way they do the HomeLink, except in Europe. In Europe, if it doesn't ship with the tow hitch installed, you can't get it added in a lot of the countries. It's like straight up illegal. But that's not a problem here. It's one of your biggest markets. Give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
With that, speaking of big, Patrick's got a story about a big vehicle. What's that happening? Patrick, what's going on with that?
Yes, that is right. So, as Mark mentioned in the show open, that last week was the finance call, and one of the things that Musk mentioned was that the Semi is ready to go. The only thing holding it back are cells, and that they don't have enough battery capacity because it takes about 5 vehicles worth to make one Semi, and right now that means they wouldn't be able to meet customer demand for their cars. So with that, the Semi waits, and this explains why they're trying to ramp up their own battery production as fast as possible, while why they are also asking their suppliers to ramp up capacity as fast as possible, because it is the limiting factor. And so much of our technology going forward is going to be battery powered. If you want clean, renewable energy, you need batteries. If you want to be able to do massive semi trucks like this, these could have up to a megawatt battery pack. Megawatt hour, excuse me. Don't get power and energy confused. We'll get really bad comments in the... Yeah. So here's a couple of the quotes from Musk. The main reason we have not accelerated new products, for example, the TeslaSemi, is that we simply don't have enough cells for it. If we were to make the Semi right now, we could easily go into production, but we would not have enough cells for it. And then a little bit later he says, the Semi would typically be 5x the number of cells that a car would use, but it would not sell for 5 times the price that a car would sell for. So that kind of would not make sense for us to do the Semi right now. So there you go. That's why you don't see a bunch of Tesla Semis rolling down the road, is battery constraint.
Or do we?
Yeah, and it's interesting that when the refresh came out of the Model S and X, there was a lot of presumptiveness that, hey, that's going to be the 4680 cell,
Right.
because obviously you've redesigned the car somewhat. There would be the time to do it. But Tesla had indicated that they can't do it because of that lack of batteries. All they did was update the chemistry formula inside those battery cans, and the 18650 still is what is in the S and X refresh, because they can get another supplier to continue to make batteries in order to keep those cars filled up with battery packs, and still have the other batteries they're making for new products, or for the 3, the Y, and the future endeavors. So it is all a question of volume, and
Yes.
Tesla was having a crunch back on Battery Day. They were telling us about that there is a crunch at that point. So that hasn't changed, but we've got some more battery stories coming up today that we'll get to as we move along.
Yes.
With that said, Mr. Green's got our next story.
That I do. So we're going to talk about the power of the new Tesla Model S and X gaming console. It's rated at 10 teraflops, which is the same as the new PS5. The Xbox One X is a 12 teraflop, so that was pretty interesting to me that they've got, what did they say, 64 gigs on the current one, and the game that they headline on the pictures for the new one is The Witcher, And my understanding is that's a 60 gig game, so gonna need a little bit more space for that. But the reason that it's able to get the same power is I think it's actually the same chip as the game consoles, the AMD platform. So that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, so you've got now, of course, 2 screens in the car,
Mm-hmm.
and in the promo pictures they were showing The Witcher on one screen, and I think it was the
buggy racing.
Yeah,
Yep.
the buggy racing on the other. So that's telling us that you could be running different games in front and back of the car. So definitely going to need some more processing power now that you've got 2 units streaming different things to different screens.
I think it'd also be kind of cool to see how they do the head-to-head play. Was you got the rotate the screen to the right, because the screen rotates left and right now. Right, each to the right, person in the front is playing versus the person in the back.
Right.
That would be cool. You'd each have your own screen and be able to race against each other or whatever. That's fun. Yeah. I'm really curious about, okay, you said that they're likely using some of the same hardware, but it's not just like it's a PS5 or an Xbox that's plunked in there. It's their own proprietary
their own computer,
console their own system. Yeah.
The new AMD chips that just came out for PC, and then the chips that the Xbox and the PlayStation are using are essentially the same chip. They've just put in their own custom as far as what they want for RAM and their own peripherals, and then they're obviously their own operating system. And then
right, and as we know, Tesla loves to vertically integrate, so they wouldn't just use someone else's software, even though that would have immediately gotten them a huge game library. Cool. So now I wonder how difficult it is to port it from one game system to another.
Well, since they're speaking the same architectural language, it should be just a matter of making sure that the OS has what they need available as far as controller access, Bluetooth, whatever the game is going to need to do all of its tricks. Graphics, the graphics will be the same between all 3 systems.
Right, so how many of those APIs are standardized? Because I would think that the game consoles are highly specialized, but then again, they also need to publish it so that the game community can easily write for their system, so maybe it's not as hard as I'm thinking. Because I'm thinking every game is going to have to be like a big porting effort. Right. Maybe not.
There were 2 engines that were already brought to Tesla. One we've seen in our cars for the games that we already have, and then the other one that Musk had mentioned we had not seen on any game that's in the car yet, but we don't know that the system wasn't already there. And surely, since most of the games use those, then they put that in there by now.
Yeah, do you happen to know what The Witcher uses?
I wish I could remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But
again, remarkable to have a gaming console basically in the car. That type of power available to you. Going forward, as Tesla does put an emphasis on games and entertainment, because they, of course, believe that passengers, or outside of passengers, even the driver, once they go to full self-drive, you're going to want to be doing something in the time you're spending in a car. So those entertainment options are important to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, a Tesla, if you own one, is already the most powerful computer you have in your household, if you count the inference engines in there.
Exactly.
Times 2.
Yeah, exactly. And like when they rolled out an autonomous vehicle day, whenever, they said it was 20 times faster than the NVIDIA system it replaced. So yeah, definitely a lot of horsepower. Obviously, that has a different purpose. You wouldn't want to use that also for gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a separate system than the autopilot system. So
exactly,
they've added so that you've got what was already there from 2012. That's beefed up to the current levels with MCU probably 3. Then you've got the probably FSD 3 because they Elon shot down the idea that it would be of the FSD 2.0 computer, the AP4, and now we've got a third computer for the video game as far as system, because most of those systems I've named are actually multi-chip, multi-fault tolerant, so that way your car doesn't, if something happens while it's riding down the road, it can still continue to be a safe and operational car.
Big plus there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's smart to make them separate systems. You wouldn't want to have the kid in the back playing Beach Buggy Racer and then have some little glitch where it just takes over the real car.
Oh, man.
Not good at all. Absolutely. Well, with that, this week, earlier in the week, we had placed a Twitter poll out there, and we wanted, of course, to ask the burning question: what do you think about the new Yoke style steering wheel in the S and the X? Is it something that you would use, or is it something that you'd rather not and can stick with a traditional wheel design? So we had almost 500 votes, and overwhelmingly, people like the new design and are happy for it. So 70% to 30%, roughly, in that split favor. So that's fantastic. What do you guys think? You've had some time to think about it. If you had to switch right over to the Yoke, that's all you could do is switch or not switch. Would you switch?
Yeah, I mean, I want to try it out first, but I have a feeling that they didn't just do this just to get rid of a couple of gear switches. It looks like something they've put some thought into as far as how it's going to operate, and now it's a matter of seeing if our experience with it matches what the designers thought.
Yeah, I'm in a very similar camp. I'm very interested in it. I want to try it. The whole stockless experience, I'm very curious how that's going to work. If it's trying to intuit the right gear to put it into, or guessing, as Musk called it, I want to give it more credit than that. Is there an easy way, if it doesn't get it right, that you can? Besides, I don't want to go through too many, touchscreen options, but can you double tap the brake to have it, try again, or some other clever little easy hack?
So the way that Musk described it was, you'll have on the screen pretty much like the wipers on your Model 3, and then if the screen is out, then they've got a force touch buttons underneath by the phones. So I wonder if those will work if the screen is not out, because then they won't move, and you'll have to swipe through the cards to get to them.
It's going to be interesting to see, especially the stockless part. But I have to give it to them. Everyone was so concerned about the Model 3 having the speedometer over to the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was so concerned that your peripheral vision was not going to pick it up. And, of course, it did. And,
well, I mean, they had the same argument before we got the Prius, and that's been doing it for 20 years now.
So it's
right.
I'm sure they've tested this out, and they've been trying to put a Yoke on several vehicles to this point. So I'm sure that they've been testing and playing with it and refining it. So I'm anxious to try it out. I think I would switch. I think I would.
Yeah, yes. There's so many. I'm glad to see that 70%, at least of our viewers, were willing to liked it, because there are a few people that are really loud that did not like it, and that's just, the loud voices shouldn't be the ones to win the conversation. It should be something like this poll where actually everybody gets a say.
I will also add that it was found in the Tesla Design Studio source code. There was a picture of the refreshed S and X with a normal steering wheel in there. So it could be an option too. That's another thing that would please everybody if you have the ability to pick your steering wheel.
Pay extra for a circle.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So somebody had pointed out that in the 60s or 70s, we had square steering wheels before, or rectangle steering wheels before, so it's not unheard of. And like I mentioned the last time, since it's a closed top, it might count. I didn't know that this had a name or that it had been done before. It might count as a rectangular steering wheel.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the way a bunch of the haters just jumped on and said, Tesla rolled this out, and they're selling it, and it's not even approved by NHTSA. And
every time they say that, I'm like, you don't think that they've got these things lined up?
Yeah, like you think of that stupid that you would spend the money, get it to production, and say, "Oh, it's not legal." Forgot.
Right.
I mean, I totally understand for a prototype like the Cybertruck. Okay, maybe that one wasn't run by the regulators, but they say these things are coming out in March, just like this. They've sold this as a feature. Yeah. I don't see them not going through the proper channels. I mean, I can see them riding hard on a gray line, but I don't see them not trying to do it the right way.
Right. If something's 2 years away, yeah, you could have it without side mirrors, and you could have cameras instead, and you could do funky steering wheels. But yeah, not something that's delivering next month. No way.
Yeah. Well, a good example is the Semi. Pretty much after they unveiled it, it had mirrors on it, and even the latest edition we saw strapped down to a truck by the Kilowatts, that one still had the mirrors on it, and in fact, it appears that it's even closer to production.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So if you haven't already, please subscribe to our Twitter feed at The Tesla Life, and you can follow along with polls and participate and see the news as it happens throughout the week. And with that, we'll move on to our next bit of news, and that is a story about the Supercharger Network. This is an article that was submitted by hbr.org, and they talked about, and it's not a surprise to any of us on the show, or I would imagine the people that listen to and watch our show, that Tesla is really leaving the competition in EV manufacturing in the dust because of the Supercharger network that they control and operate. This article goes through how much of a step above Tesla's system is, Tesla's network is over anyone else's, and it's because of some simple reasons. One, it's created and controlled and maintained by Tesla, the ones that knows your car the best. Second, these particular charging infrastructures that are built are so seamless that all you do is pull in and plug in, as we all know. And the connection to the car reads a serial number and sends a bill or a non-bill based on if you have free superchargers or not back to your credit card. So the experience is just seamless. And third, the placement of the superchargers in ideal spots to, one, facilitate better travel between cities, and secondly, those spots to have the ability for facilities available for the driver. So if you have to eat, if you have to go to the washroom, if you have to take a bit of a rest, if you want a motel or hotel, all those options are typically checked off when you're arriving at those superchargers. So it gives the driver those flexibility things that they want to do anyways on their trip, have to do, and that is the third bit of information that leads them so far above the competition.
Yeah, I mean, it's to the point where you've got people that run around doing reviews of the superchargers because
who would do something like that?
I don't know.
Some weirdo. They all offer different amenities, and some are better than others. But the fact that even happens is awesome, because when you look at some of the level 2s and some of the other level 3s that are out there, they're just kind of like, oh, there it is. And it's like there's nowhere to go to the bathroom. It's in the middle of like gang territory. It's like
yeah.
And you find out that 2 out of the 4 don't work.
Especially that.
Because, you know, they're all lit up and whatever, but you go to plug them in and there's a problem.
Or they're like the spaces right next to the disabled stalls, so that now everybody wants to use them because they're right next to the door.
Yeah, that's a even worse replacement. But it's a huge divide, and I don't see the others. I guess I do see others trying to catch up in a way, but they're not doing it in the same way. You know, they're basically picking a single retailer like Walmart and setting them all up in Walmart parking lots. Yes, the location might work okay, but they're not checking the other boxes. They're not optimizing them. They're not putting in the same amount of stalls. They're not controlling the maintenance of them, and people are having some issues with it. And of course, the other thing is that they have to work for all different types of EVs, not just one brand of car that the manufacturer knows how to allot for. They're plugging into multiple different brands from different manufacturers, and they're having to serve the entire community. And of course, that can be troublesome when you don't control those other manufacturers and what they put in their charging infrastructure in the car.
Well, worse than that, it's not even that you don't control them. They're not in any sort of agreement with you. They're like, oh, there's a standard. Just like we saw with the HDMI 2.1, some of the audio receivers, they don't fully implement the content protection and stuff like that correctly. So when you plug in, you get no audio or a blank screen when you try to use 8K or 4K. It's they're both technically following the standard, but one of them isn't doing it the same way. Whereas if they were partners with the company that made the network, like if they were to go with the Supercharger network for their network, they would obviously be talking with Tesla, and Tesla would say, "Hey, make sure that command number 77 at 800 megahertz is A and not B. Otherwise, we're not gonna let you on."
Yeah, allowing everyone to be on the same page is quite valuable when you're trying to build a network in reliability.
Yeah. So I started driving electric in 2007. So it wasn't a Tesla. I had a couple different EVs before getting to Tesla. And the main thing that drew me over to Tesla was that they had a reliable charging network. And after driving around in my Leaf and experiencing all these problems, you pull up somewhere, there's only one, it's iced, or it's in use, or it's broken, or you have to reset it twice and then call the company and get them to remotely reset it. We went through all of that, and it was just a big hassle. And so I'm just happy to see that Harvard Business Review has finally caught up with me, because I wrote an article in 2017 called EV Charging Experience. Only Tesla has it right. And that's very much the reason that Teslas are the two vehicles in our garage are both Teslas. And this is the primary reason. And there's a lot of other cool stuff that comes with it, but it's mostly about functionality.
Yeah. The other thing is, like, look at the siting. Like, when they pick a site, they try to make sure that it's gonna not disrupt your travel. So, like one of my favorite ones was the Wallace. What was it, Wallace? Not Wallace. Wallace is the one that replaced the Warsaw Supercharger. It was right on the exit. Eventually, that hotel was sold, and the new owner didn't agree with some of the stuff that they had bought, and they were hostile to Tesla owners. So Tesla removed it and put in the Wallace Supercharger instead. It wasn't as close or as nice, but the experience was nicer because you didn't get harassed when you went, and it was still in between two major city pairs, and it was still not too far from the highway. So those are the kind of things they look for, not just is there a bathroom. They're gonna say, all right, is it on your route of travel? Does it make sense for this location? Is it near where a lot of people live in, like, high-rise condos, or is it in between city A and B to the point where they want to? They may not get them all 100% all the boxes checked, but most of them have 3 to 7 of the boxes checked as to why they put the charger there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very good. Next, we've got a story about HEPA filters. So bioweapon defense mode, which of course is available, started in the Model X, correct? That was the first vehicle that had it. And apparently Model Y is getting it in Shanghai now. And this story is about HEPA filters for the Model 3 are now becoming available for the car through Tesla. So this is not biodefense weapons mode, complete. All this is basically replacing the 2 internal air filters that you have in your car and replacing them with HEPA compliant filters. So giving you a little bit more filtering ability, not as, definitely not as stringent as what bioweapon defense mode is, but it is something, if you're interested in improving the air filters in your car, you now have the option of getting HEPA filters to replace the standard ones that came with the Model 3 upon its release. Patrick has a Model 3. I've got a Model 3. Patrick, have you ever replaced your internal filters?
No, not in the 3. In the X, we have multiple times. It's older, and it has the 4-year maintenance contract. So I use that in my annual service, definitely, because I've paid for it.
Yeah. I've replaced it after it was just over 2 years, 2 years, 3 months, 2 years, 4 months, something like that.
I take it back.
Update. Tesla has emailed the person saying they made a mistake, but Model Y and Model 3 are over 70% the same parts. So maybe they didn't actually make a mistake. Maybe they let something slip early that isn't quite ready yet.
There is that possibility. In the same article, it indicates, is bioweapon defense mode next? So they're putting out the possibility that maybe it will be implemented like the Model Y, although it's tight under the hood of the 3. So unlike the Y, it has a lot more room. But it is possibility.
The 21 Model 3 moved the filter to the cowl, just like on the Model Y, right?
That I don't know.
People were saying that they moved the battery, the 12-volt battery, and so that could very much be them almost being done with this.
Well, we'll have to see. But
you asked earlier, Mark, if we ever changed the filter, and I said no. But I forgot that. When we first got our Model 3, they had a software bug where if you had the air conditioning running, after they stopped the air conditioning, they didn't run the fans to let the condenser dry off, and so a lot of Model 3s, including ours, were getting this funky gym sock smell. And we took it in. We had all that cleaned out. We had the filters changed, and that was like a week after we got the software update where they fixed that problem. And I really tried hard to get them to do it as a goodwill, because it was their software bug as far as I was concerned, but it was relatively cheap. We did have the filters changed once as part of that.
Okay. When I changed mine, I was able to change it myself, looking at some YouTube videos and doing some study on it. And there was the one screw that keeps the cover on it. That is the toughest screw to get out. After you get that screw out, it's all easy. But it's really difficult getting that screw out because of where it's positioned, and you have to have a special, almost like a bendy end on the end of your screwdriver that you can put the socket screw in and then have it bend and then contort yourself into the cavity to get your arm up in there to unscrew it. But I managed it, and so far so good. It's worked out well.
Cool. So does your Model 3, where it would, or on ours where it might have a Phillips or cross tip, does yours have the Canadian version of that in those places?
We've got a Torx number 10.
Well, I mean the places where they don't use Torx, like say the license plate holder or some place like that where they have a very American bit.
We would have the American screws. Yeah.
Okay.
Because of course it's made in Fremont. You're not getting different screws on a Canadian car than you are on an American car.
They do make some internationalization happens. It could have been.
Not these guys.
No, still Phillips across the board. No Robinson on this car at all.
That's the word I was looking for, Robinson.
Yeah, that's a big U.S.-Canada fight right there.
That is. Yep. Okay, with that, our next story moves on to Casey, who's got something about charging.
Yes. So the fastest charging Tesla crown has been yanked from the young up and comer and put back on the old the old guard of the Model S.
What? That's not possible.
It's totally possible. The new Model S and Model X refresh, they have a new chemistry for their batteries, even though they have the same 18650 cells. They've rearranged the pack layout and cooling, and they have a proper size conduit and cabling to the charge port, and their new fuel efficiency. All that combines to make the Model S and Model X charge faster than the Model 3 and Model Y.
Damn it! The Model 3 held the crown for so long.
It did.
Right. What if you view it in miles per hour? Because does that help the 3 win?
No. It does not. Yeah, the Model S can charge, I think, 175 miles in 15 minutes now. And it is still significantly faster than the Model X because she'd be a chonker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So between the S and X, they charge at the same power, but you just, with that energy that you get during that, you get more miles or distance in the S than you do the X. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's as it should be. These are their top of the line premium vehicles. They cost more. It was a sad state from 2018 until now, the last 2 or 3 years, where the S and X were really just limping along. Yeah, I started an article called Model S, Love It or Leave It, to be this open letter to Tesla to say, get off your ass and improve this vehicle. I never published it because they were doing great things, and they were making improvements. It was just a lot of performance improvements and other things. I'm so glad they finally did this refresh, and even though it's not a refresh, it's a refresh. Yep.
Yeah, it's again, it makes it obviously when you make a vehicle, there are many trade-offs that you make for speed, for delivery, for what the car is supposed to do, for the cost. All these things combined, and you're going to have trade-offs. And of course, there's nothing that highlights trade-offs more than bringing up a brand new car from the ground with the knowledge you've learned for the past 6-7 years and building it better. And of course, that's what Tesla had done. And now they're taking the next generation of the X to another platform because they've learned from the 3 and the Y. And now they can implement that kind of stuff into the cars that were at the top of the food chain when we started this.
Yeah, and it also appears they've gone to make a casted rear and partial front portions as well, from what we've seen. So they're bringing the S from 2012 on up.
That's right. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of stuff that's going to keep Tesla ahead of the competition. Is that so much innovation happening and applying it with each generation better than the last. The thing that I was really excited to see is that their orders for the new S and X have shot through the roof. And they said they haven't seen this much order activity since I think it was they introduced Ludicrous. So that was really great to see.
Well, I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, who wants to reorder the same car when you can just go take yours into service and keep on driving it? I want to get something different if I'm going to spend that kind of money.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you knew that there was a lot of people that were believing there is a refresh coming. There was too much smoke for there not to be a fire at some point. So they decided, a lot of people probably put off purchasing, just waiting for the new refresh to come at some point in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that just threw the doors open, and now the orders are flying in. So we'll see. We'll see what the bump is when they start to deliver them, and how that equates into the numbers. Because we will get to see that since Tesla does break the Model X and S together in its own category. We'll see those sales numbers and be able to compare them.
Yeah,
right. And for Q1's results, it's only going to be 1 month of delivery.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Yeah. But when we get Q2, we'll know for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the amount of people who were caught in between, it's interesting. The choices that they were given. Some of them $2,000
discount.
Yeah.
Here's your $100 deposit back.
Yep.
Or I guess pick another car.
Yeah.
Right. And there were a few people that weren't happy with it, but I would be ecstatic if you ordered a Model S and now this new, better, awesome vehicle comes out, and it costs a little more, but you get so much more value for it, and they're going to give you a $2,000 discount that if someone else went to the website today and ordered it, they don't get. I mean, getting discounts from Tesla is practically unheard of.
Yeah.
So shut up and be happy. That's all.
The only ones I can understand their dismay is if they all of a sudden, say they already did the Tesla stretch and now they can't afford the next bump. I get that, but the rest of them.
The other thing was Tesla would strive to find them another car somewhere in the network. Right. The older version close to what they've ordered.
If there's anything left.
Yeah. So that would, and of course, that's going to dwindle as time goes along.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe some of them will get a used one. Hopefully they honor that discount on a used one. But I mean, the only ones I understand and have empathy with are the ones that did the Tesla stretch, and now it's beyond what they can stretch to, and now they can't get a new Model S that they were looking to get. But the rest of them is like you said, it's like you're getting a discount. They don't do this like almost ever.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up and get it, or get your money back. Just don't bring us with it.
Very good. And speaking of something else large, Patrick's got our next story about battery production.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah, so I did the large trucks, and now I'm doing the large Cato Road facility. So again, in the financial call, Musk mentioned that this was their pilot, but this facility would be in the top 10 but for Tesla, it's just a pilot. So, of course, the Tesla Nation, the army of Tesla fans out there said, well, exactly where would that fall? So we have a story here from Teslarati where they have pulled up the top 10 lithium-ion cell plants. And we've got LG Chem, BYD, and it's down the list. Other names you'll recognize, CATL, Panasonic, BYD, and actually CATL's on here twice because this is by facility. So sure enough, they would be number 8 on this list. And that is incredible, that a pilot facility. So Tesla plans on ramping up, and by 2022 have a facility that's about 10 times bigger than this one, that's actually making the 4680 cells in mass production in 2022. So the whole thing we talked about earlier with the Semi is they're cell constrained. Well, this is their plan to get out of that. 4680, get it working, get tablets working. These batteries have 5 times the amount of energy. Part of that is their larger volume. They've got 6 times the power from the old 2170 cells, and even more if you compare that to the 18650s. So this is going to enable so much. We talked about the Cybertruck, the Semi, their Plaid vehicles, and every kilowatt hour that these replace is more cells that are available for the rest of the vehicles, more cells available for energy storage products, and that's what we're going to need for massive solar farms. So this is awesome. This is what allows all of this to happen. Is the underlying battery technology is fundamental to all of it. There you go.
Yep, and it's like you said, that's phenomenal for a pilot plant. This is just a test that they were rolling out. Obviously, they expanded the test because they knew it was working. But to have it as the 8th largest battery plant in the world as a pilot is remarkable. So this is going to be unbelievable as they start to roll it out and build Germany, build Giga, Texas, all of them having their own battery production in-house at multiple plants is going to be unbelievable.
It's
the
volume. It's likely better than that. Somebody pointed out that this chart is from a research company, and they're counting factories that haven't opened yet. And so that would make Panasonic Tesla Gigafactory 1 or Giga Nevada. It would move them up the list, and it might put. They might put the
might
pilot
pull
plant.
Some others with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So some of them. Here's one from Northvolt that has a 2023 opening or expected completion date, and then several of them on here for their completion date. It has TBC, which to be continued. I don't know.
To be completed.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'm used to TBD, to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would think that Elon would have been talking about plants that are already in operation. So if it can hold its own against all these plants that aren't open yet, that's even more phenomenal.
Yeah, it's going to be even bigger. Absolutely. Well, with that, we're off to space next. And Casey's got the next story.
All right. So there is a mission going on at the end of this year. No earlier than, I should say. Where SpaceX is sending the first all-civilian crew into space for a few days, and that is the there's a millionaire who commissioned this flight. This is not the beautiful moon flight on the Starship. This is actually they're going on Dragon, the same Crew Dragon that they go to the ISS. It didn't say that they were going to the ISS explicitly on all the materials I read, and they're going to do this for charity. He's paying for the flight, and then 3 other people are going to be chosen from people who donate to children's cancer research.
Yeah, St. Jude's.
St. Jude's, yeah.
And there's going to be so he's paid for the entire flight for a crew of 4 civilians.
Mm-hmm.
So none of them, they'll be trained on some space travel stuff. They'll be suited up, all that kind of stuff. But these are not professional astronauts. No one is a professional astronaut that will be on this flight. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. The quote that he said that stuck with me is like he thinks that there shouldn't be a Make-A-Wish Foundation because he thinks that they shouldn't be making essentially, I'm paraphrasing him. He thinks that the children cancer should be curable. It shouldn't be something that, hey, this is my last wish as a kid. And,
right.
That stuck with me.
So he's using this as a fundraiser.
It's a fundraiser, and he's already put $100 million outside of the mission, $100 million to St. Jude's. And so of the people he's going to draw, they will also be people who donate to St. Jude's.
Wow.
That's a cool way to raise money. And
it is.
As a civilian, what are your odds of ever getting into space? Almost 0. And if
Right.
you buy one of these tickets, then they're slightly above almost 0.
Exactly. And that's going to run from February 1st to February 28th. And he said that there's no limit on it. So, I mean, if you can only afford $20, that will put you in. If you can afford $100,000, that will put you in the running too. I think one of them might be, I forget if he said that if one of them was like to the next highest donor, but definitely at least one of them is just a random drawing of people who did donate.
So that's incredible. You're going to have 4 civilians put on a Dragon crew, and I understand that they're going to be orbiting the Earth.
Yeah, they're going to orbit Earth.
Orbit the Earth a few times and then come back to Earth.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, well, since it is Crew Dragon, we're talking a splashdown then, aren't we?
Splashdown, yeah. 2 to 4 days, and then splashdown. It didn't say anything about ISS or anything like that because they're not astronauts.
Nope.
Right, but there has to be a pilot, right?
No,
I'm sure he's probably going to get trained as a pilot because he's already a certified pilot on Earth. He flies jets.
Yeah, he flies jets, right?
Yeah.
But we've heard that Crew Dragon 2 was so automated that when they sent Bob and Doug up for the first demonstration, that they didn't have to do anything. They did take control so they could test it.
Yeah.
Test the manual controls. But they didn't have to. The spacecraft took care of itself and even docked itself to the ISS. But it does have manual controls if something was to happen that they are required.
Yeah.
So,
and then Cargo Dragon's getting ready to go up, isn't it?
Yep. Absolutely. They still have that contract. So they're shuttling not only people, but continuing to shuttle cargo to the ISS.
Yep, and then we've got 2 rockets coming up. One is at 1:30 Eastern in the morning, and the next is on Friday at 5 a.m. Eastern.
So, yeah, SpaceX is just launching constantly.
Yeah,
so,
those are both Starlink, yeah.
Has that ever been done before? 2 rockets on the same day?
They came really close, and then weather pushed the other one 2 days out. So if weather doesn't move this one, they were going to be the same day, and then they said that they wanted more time to check stuff out. So they'll still be in 24 hours. They kind of did
with Falcon Heavy, right?
That doesn't count. That's 1 rocket.
2 went up, 2 landed. So
3 went up. Yes. Yeah.
Fair enough.
But as far as separate missions, I think the closest they came was 48 hours.
Well, since we're talking about rockets, we have to mention SN9.
Yeah, that was.
Yes.
Yeah.
A very successful mission, but didn't quite stick the landing.
Right, quite at all.
Yeah, the rapid disassembly, rapid unscheduled disassembly occurred as part of the landing. So, Mark, after 8, you said, "Oh, I hope the next one lands and it lands smooth." And I actually kind of feel bad now because I said, "I don't. I hope it's a spectacular explosion because those are just so much more exciting." And then that is kind of what happened.
All right, so now you got to go on public record. What's SN10 going to do, Patrick?
Okay. it's going to land and then fall over.
Oh, come on now.
That's my guess. They can't just stick it perfectly. They have to have it, work their way up.
Yeah, John Innsbrucker was a little. He was a little speechless at first, but he caught it. He said, "Didn't quite stick that landing." I was like, "Oh my god."
John's not used to that. Working the crew side of things, where things are so smooth every time.
Yeah.
Right.
So this time it didn't eat the engine alive because we didn't see any of that green copper trail, and
exactly.
but it didn't. It looked like it was sputtering. It didn't look like it got up to.
Yeah. It was only there was only one firing when it spun around.
Same as last time, one firing, but the second one.
Yeah.
The second one actually put out orange flame this time instead of green, but it didn't.
Still didn't
look like it got
enough thrust to put it in where it needed to go.
Yeah.
Well, with that, our next story, we all know Sandy Munro, the famous guy that rips down Teslas to the bare bones to see what's going on inside of it. Well, Sandy, as we mentioned last week, was on a cross-country trip, and he ended up, after going to California, he went up to Oregon to visit Patrick, and then he came back to Texas. And he had a interview with Elon Musk at the spaceport in Boca Chica.
Yeah, although Sandy said it the same way you did, Boca Chica.
Yeah, so. Chia Pet. So Sandy and Elon had about an hour interview, and what was interesting that I saw, you can see in the show notes. You can go watch the interview yourself. It's an interesting interview. What I found interesting was that Sandy did bring up the points that he's been talking about with Tesla all the way along, about the gaps not being straight on one side of the car and being fine on the other side of the car. Looking at the wiring harness and not being too impressed. But he also pointed out things that were positive. The paint has gotten considerably better. In fact, the ones that he's looked at on his trip were all perfect. So he does talk about the positives as well as the negatives, and not surprisingly, when Elon started to talk about some of the negative things, like the body panels not being perfect in every instance, Elon talked about different tolerances and how they were working with steel and aluminum, and how they, for example, had to work within constraints that they were handed. That the materials were of a certain value and the car was of a certain price. And whenever you do these things and try to put it all together, there's trade-offs in time, in materials, in cost. All these things combine to having some issues that you have to work through. And it's not surprising, especially with the strain that the Model 3 project was under when they were trying to get it to start firing so that they could pay some of their bills. It is not surprising that they did have issues. So Elon had talked about how now that they have the luxury of being able to go back and start to rework things, such as the Model 3 and Model Y, doing that press casting to eliminate so many other parts, put it into one stiff body frame, have a front piece, have a back piece, and use the battery as the middle stabilizer. Only 3 pieces for the entire chassis of the car, how stiff it is, how it's going to be such an improvement. These are all things that they've learned with the creation of the Model 3 and Y as time has gone on. So I'm not going to spend a great amount of time on this. Certainly go watch the interview if you have interest. I think it's worthwhile. And hearing Sandy and Elon talk about different things. And they agree upon quite a bit throughout the interview.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, Patrick's got another battery story for us today. He's Mr. Battery Man today.
I am.
What is that?
Yes. That is Panasonic plans to start building 4680 battery cells later this year. So there was some question about, hey, Tesla's invented this new cell, this new size. Are they going to allow their partners to do it? And the answer is yes. And the first one coming online here is Panasonic. And of course, they're going to be doing that in the Nevada, the Sparks factory, Gigafactory 1, as it used to be called. So here's one of the quotes. The reason Tesla is doing its own cell production is in order to accelerate the growth. It is not to make less use of our cell suppliers. So yeah, that's the point we made earlier. They want all the batteries they can get. That's their limiting factor. So now they're enabling some of their partners to do this. And as we talked about earlier, they didn't want to force their partners to do this and have them have this downtime where they're transitioning. Instead, you say, here's the new design. Yes, continue to make what you are. We will continue to buy those and put them to work. And in the meantime, also start new lines with this new product. And so, yeah, that was just great to see, because the theme of my presentations here tonight has been batteries are the limiting factor. And so how do we fix that? You get pilot lines, you figure out new ways to do it, and you ramp up and you start making more of them. And so that's the 1, 2, 3 punch here with these 3 stories.
Yeah, and since the batteries can go into, with the structural pack and the packs that they've got today, now they've rearranged S and X, it can take any size cell and stick them in there. Like the point of the structural cell is that you're bonding the top and bottom plate and the battery cells together with adhesive.
Yeah, it's adhesive and flame retardant.
And flame retardant and the coolant. Yeah. And now that the coolant is loose, the coolant lines.
Right.
And
yes.
So at that point, if Panasonic is now putting out enough of non-18650s that they could put 2170s or 4680s in even the base Model S and Model X. But as we saw, what they've done today is you can change the jelly roll, you can change the chemistry, and you just need more of those cans. So,
right. Yeah, the advantage that 4680 is that they figured out how you can get this big and still get the heat out of it. And that's a great advancement. But the other cells, well, the reason that they worked is because they're smaller, which allows you to get the heat out of it. So it's not like the chemistry is what matters, and this just allows, the 4680 allows them to do it at a more affordable price and in fewer cans for a higher volume of energy. So, but it's not like you lose something if your vehicle doesn't have the 4680. That's just size.
Yeah, so literally you get the difference between all the different cell walls. They can now get maybe another battery or two because there's now less, and then maybe that much less weight because now that extra little bit of volume that was taken up by the different cell walls is now taken up by the interior of a whole nother cell or two.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's minor. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. That about wraps it up for this evening. We'd like to thank everyone for watching today. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up at this point. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It helps us out. The thumbs up helps out. Send us a comment. That helps as well. Any interaction helps the YouTube algorithm and gets us in front of more eyeballs. So please help us out by doing that. It doesn't cost you anything. We'd like to thank Lee Moon for the music we use every week. And Patrick, any parting thoughts for us today?
Yeah, so as you know, I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net. And last week on the show, we were talking about Tesla's policies about should full self-driving be transferable or not. And if you have an older vehicle that has some cool feature like premium connectivity for life for free or supercharging for free, how should Tesla handle that when you trade it in? And should you get some value for it? Should you be able to transfer it? And for just a quick example, I have a 2016 Model X that has free supercharging for life. And I really like the new X. I'm very tempted by it, but there's no way that I could get that new feature on there. So that kind of makes me want to stick with my older vehicle, which is bad for Tesla. And so Casey threw out some ideas. We all talked about it, and so I wrote an article about it. You can go and look at it right now, and it's titled "How Tesla's Policies Can Discourage Owners from Buying a New Tesla." Just, so hopefully they can. Yeah, and I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at OEVA. Thanks.
Casey, what about you? Some parting words?
Yeah, that was a good article. I left some comments on there for you.
Thanks.
If you look down and that subscribe button is red, turn it gray. And I've got some videos out for you myself over at youtube.com/CaseyGreen. That's KACEYGREEN, youtube.com/me. I've got, like I said, the deep dive into the current software update is going to go up soon, and then I've got a couple other treats coming out by the weekend.
Fantastic. Well, we'll see you all next week, and thanks very much for joining us on the Tesla Life. Have a great evening, everyone.
Stay positive, test negative.